Alright, Ronan MMA, welcome back to the channel. Now, it is my opinion that Herb Dean is the worst ref that the UFC has to offer, okay? Now, I'm not talking about when the UFC goes to a state that they don't typically go to or a country they don't typically go to, and those commissions employ their local guys to get some big show experience, right? Guys who have never reffed a UFC event in their life all of a sudden are reffing a UFC event, and you can tell, right? I'm talking about the guys that are main staples in the UFC's stable of referees. We've got Mark Goddard, Jason Herzog, Keith Peterson, Mark Smith, and of course Herb Dean. Guys like this, right? Guys that on a weekly basis get big show experience. Guys that on a weekly basis get to ref the co-main events, the main events, the pay-per-view events, and all this shit, right? Herb Dean has been around for a very long while, and in my opinion, hasn't been good at his job for a significant period of time, despite people like Joe Rogan continuously gaslighting us on both the UFC's broadcast and his podcast that Herb Dean is the gold standard of refereeing.
Herb Dean will say it when it's appropriate, like if someone's like they're stalling.
He's great.
He's a gold standard. Him and McCarthy are the gold standard. They're the best.
If that is the gold standard, I don't know what the fuck we're doing here because he is awful, okay? Now, usually, in my opinion, Herb Dean's problem when it comes to refereeing is his lack of assertiveness, okay? This is why oftentimes you will see Herb Dean associated with late stoppages and things like that, right? You can tell, you can kind of see him thinking in the moment like, oh, do I jump in now? Do I jump in now? And shit like this where it's like, no, dude, you need to be on top of it, okay? We will also see him warn guys like 10 plus times for cage grabs, hooking gloves, things like this, or when it comes to eye pokes and nut shots where we have an actual pause in the action, you will hear him give multiple, quote, hard warnings each fight, which what the fuck does that mean? If you don't get just one of those, that's not a hard warning, okay, Herb? It's unbelievable. Now, last night, ironically enough, the mistake that he made was not actually lack of assertiveness. He was unbelievably assertive in an instance where he was fucking wrong, okay? Herb Dean, how many goddamn fights have you reffed in Las Vegas? And I'm going to get to Las Vegas in a minute, but how many fights have you reffed there, okay? How do you not know the rules in Las Vegas when it comes to a grounded opponent? Now, we're talking about the main event that took place last night at UFC Fight Night Vegas 85 between Roman Dolidze and Nassourdine Imavov, okay? Now, Nassourdine Imavov, I believe it was in the fourth round, landed a kick to Roman Dolidze while Roman Dolidze had his fingertips on the mat, okay? This is not a grounded opponent. Herb Dean halted the action immediately, stopping all of Nassourdine Imavov's momentum. Also, you know, at the first round, it could have been stopped pretty clearly, but regardless, halted the action, stopped his momentum, separated them, gave Roman Dolidze a massive break, and ended up deducting a point from Nassourdine Imavov for this, quote, foul that was not a fucking foul, okay? Not a foul. Now, I'm going to shit on Las Vegas for a little bit. Las Vegas, dude, if you type in, what is the fight capital of the world? It comes up as Las Vegas. You type this into Google, it says Las Vegas. It is commonly referred to by fucking everybody as the fight capital of the world, okay? How is it that the fight capital of the world does not have the unified rules of MMA, okay? Because I'm going to put all this stuff up on the screen for you guys, but the unified rules of MMA, you actually need to have two hands down. Not just two hands, your palms or your fists. They need to be weight bearing. You can't just put your fingertips down on the mat and that be it. You need to have either two hands, arm, knee, some other body part that is not the soles of your feet. But one hand with just the fingertips is not enough. Now, Las Vegas, for whatever reason, because they viewed that rule to be fucking barbaric or something, they thought it would cause more dangerous incidents, did not adopt that rule along with the rest of the unified rules that they did adopt. So they don't actually have the unified rules of mixed martial arts, even though they're the fight capital of the fucking world, okay? But in Las Vegas, as director Bob Bennett has spoken about multiple times, especially right after Valentina Shevchenko and Alexa Grasso, one hand is still the rule in Las Vegas. However, they changed their language slightly. They didn't want the old rule. They didn't want the new rule. They created a hybrid. That one hand has to be weight bearing. In other words, palm, fist. Again, weight bearing. You have to be putting weight on it. You cannot just get your fingertips down on the mat like you're touching your fucking toes with the tips of your fingers and be considered a grounded opponent. And Herb Dean deducted a point due to this. And then we see full nepotism in display when you've got Ron fucking McCarthy, the son of Big John McCarthy, who claims to be this absolute wizard and fucking guru when it comes to the sport of MMA. His son is now a judge and scored that fight that was very clearly a win for Nassourdine Imavov, a draw. Did not give a 10-8 to Nassourdine Imavov in the first round, but gave a 10-8 in round 4 to Roman Dolidze due to the point deduction. Now, Nassourdine Imavov could have very well finished that fight in that fourth round. Herb Dean, Again, usually a lack of assertiveness, not the case this time. Although, the only time I don't want a referee to be assertive is when they don't know the fucking rules. Okay? Herb Dean should know these rules. Again, he has reffed I don't even know how many events, and how many of those have taken place in Las Vegas. That rule, by the way, was changed, and if I'm not mistaken, in 2018, which means for the last over half of a decade, the weight bearing thing is the rule. This is not a case of UFC 297 where we have Mark Goddard stop the action during the Arnold Allen and Movsar Evloev fight due to the same thing, right? In Ontario, they haven't adopted any new rules. Those are the old rules. Fingertips are sufficient to be considered a grounded opponent. We are not in Ontario. Herb Dean, maybe this assertiveness was due to a lack of assertiveness. Maybe him seeing that take place with Mark Goddard at UFC 297 made him rethink if he actually knew the rules or not, and then thought that fingertips were enough. I don't fucking know, but I'm sick of it. And as I said earlier on in the video, I'm so sick of people like Joe Rogan gaslighting everybody, fucking poisoning the minds of MMA fans, more casual MMA fans who basically get their knowledge from the commentary team, get their knowledge from people like Ariel Helwani and things like this, that Herb Dean is the gold standard. I'll tell you what, there's a lot of criticisms that you could levy Mark Goddard's way. I would way rather have him ref a fight any fucking day over Herb Dean. I would rather have Herzog. A lot of these guys, man. Again, lack of assertiveness is a problem when you're a referee, okay? But if you don't know the fucking rules, don't be assertive. I don't know how old Herb Dean is, but I think it's time he gets gone, okay? Because he's shit, and he's been shit for a good long while. You know, Dan Hardy lost his fucking job over Herb Dean, okay? Because Herb Dean, late stoppage, and it was actually a guy that Dan Hardy knew while he was commentating. Now, in my opinion, Dan Hardy kind of overreacted. I feel as though he was a bit dramatic, over-animated, and what have you, and then got in an altercation backstage anyways. But the point remains, like, Herb Dean should be able to do his job. He's been doing it long enough. This is the highest level of the sport. And if you can't do it, somebody else should be doing it. Somebody else should be doing it. I can't think of another referee, aside from maybe Kevin McDonald, which, by the way, has a problem with early stoppages. He's over assertive. You could actually argue that that's better for the health of the fighters. Stop it a few shots early rather than stop it 10 shots late, right? But Kevin McDonald is not necessarily a main staple. He's not licensed in every single state that the UFC goes to. You don't see him every single event. Herb Dean, you do. You do see him every event, and he's always in the high-profile spots. He was, again, the referee of the main fucking event. He doesn't know the rules, dude. As I was speaking about it, I will have put it up all on screen for you again, but I'm going to put it up again because, Jesus Christ, man. If I know this shit, how the fuck don't you? Okay? Now, anyways, dude. Also, Las Vegas, get your shit together. Get the new adopted unified rules. You are the fight capital of the world. You should not have a hybrid set of rules that only applies to Las Vegas. This rule needs to get gone, and I agree with that. Everybody says that, right? We need to get rid of this rule. We need to adopt one championship's rule set and what have you. And while I agree, I think it is a ridiculous fucking rule, I also think that this rule would become a lot less prevalent, a lot less relevant, and I think that it would affect shit a lot less if we actually had referees that knew how to employ the rule, okay? While Mark Goddard stopping the fight for Movsar Evloev with Arnold Allen was annoying, it was the correct call because they were in Ontario, right? That's fine. When you have Herb Dean stopping the action, taking a fucking point, which, by the way, Mark Goddard didn't do to Arnold Allen. It was a very close fight, and those knees were borderline. So he didn't take a point, unintentional, whatever. Meanwhile, Chris Curtis yapping his fucking mouth off in the corner of Roman Dolidze to a guy who's trying to fight because he's a fucking soy bitch, reeling in his own middle finger. Retard, dude. You want it to go out, not back in. Doesn't offer any criticism to the team, yells at Nasruddin Imavov, tells him to get over there, tells him he's going to disqualify him if he continues to go back and forth with Chris Curtis. Not at all. For a second, did he think to reprimand Chris Curtis or the corner of of Roman Dolidze, pardon me, for not shutting the fuck up, for smashing the cage when the kick happened. It's ridiculous to me, dude. Herb Dean sucks. He's the worst referee in MMA, and I think he should retire. A forced retirement would be nice. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm sick of it, dude. I can't even remember how many goddamn mistakes this guy has made over the last few years, and that's why I'm going to ask you guys. Let me know in the comments below, dude. What is the most memorable mistake from Herb Dean that you could think of off the top of your head? Because there are honestly so many of them every single week that I couldn't single out a few, right? The late stoppages are probably the worst ones, but whenever he's reffing and I hear him, don't grab the fence, Don't grab the fence, or then he'll give a little smack. Don't grab the fence. Drives me nuts. Nuts. Or he'll watch a clash of heads happen and do nothing about it. I can't fucking stand it. He's got to go. Joe Rogan's wrong. He's not the gold standard of refereeing. If anything, we got Mark Goddard, Jason Herzog, guys like that, in my opinion, are leagues above Herb Dean. Anyways, dude, rant over, okay? I had no fucking notes for this whatsoever. I was just frustrated after watching that fight last night, and I wanted to kind of touch on it in today's video. Now, like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. I will see you with the next video. Bye-bye.